Trade and Industry. He is the recipient of the Distinguished Leadership Award of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. He is also the recipient of Distinguished Alumnus Award from IIT Kanpur in 2011 and is a Fellow of the Institution of Engineers India in 2015. He holds postgraduate degrees from IIT Kanpur and University of Michigan, USA. He is a recipient of honorary doctorates from several Indian universities. His maiden book, Engineered in India, From Dreams to $1 Billion Site, is celebrating the national bestseller status in less than a year after its publication. With these few words of introduction, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together in welcoming Dr. BVR Mohan Reddy Garu.
So very good afternoon to all of you ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me. Hopefully the last benchers can hear me. Thank you. So but first let me thank the organizers, the training and placement officers, Consortium, for inviting me for the event today. My passion in terms of talking to all of you in terms of bringing about a change is so good, so high, that I ventured to take this 3.5-hour drive this morning, and I'll take one more 3.5-hour drive going back to Hyderabad. In spite of the fact that it was fairly late night yesterday, but still I said I'll come and have the honor of talking to all of you this morning. So thank you. Very current to our thinking at this point of time, I thought I'll talk to you about how we need to empower our students for them to be successful in this ever-changing technology world. And let's see what I mean by ever-changing. So therefore my presentation today is almost in 3 buckets. The first one is how are we seeing acceleration, starting off with evolution, how we are seeing the acceleration of technology. The second part of it is, as a result of these technological changes, I don't know how many of you recognize, but we're also seeing enormous amount of change in the student, in the way in which learning is done, the work environment, the skill requirements, and finally even the talent acquisition. As talent acquisition managers, most of you must be aware of some of the stuff, but I thought I'll probably remind you how it is changing quite dramatically. My third part is to talk about what the action plan that we have in making sure that our students thrive in this environment. More importantly, my big vision is that truly there's an opportunity for India to become a global leader in technology in the 21st century. And it can't just happen by nari-baji. It can't just happen by people giving lectures. You need to have change. At the ground level, we have to bring about change. And those changes and change agents are you. Some of you are already the professors. You have a teaching responsibilities. But more importantly, go back to your institutions and talk to them that it is imperative at this point of time to bring about a change to truly being a part of the nation building. Let me then move on and talk to you about how technology has evolved and how we are seeing it further growing. So this is a fairly simple slide. We talk about how industrial revolutions came by. The first one in the late part of the 18th century. The second one was the early part of the 19th century. The third one was the 20th century. And we are seeing what today is the 21st century. First one was driven by steam. The second was automobiles. The third technology, and now it is all about cyber physical systems. It is what's happening digitally is that you're now mixing between the devices and people, and they're all talking to each other, they're all connected. Almost 100 years. So did it take almost 100 years thereafter. But people do not have courage any longer to call the every day. That's the pace at which the technology is changing. We'll come to that in a minute and how the new technologies are coming in. But equally important is one common link that's there for all technology. Every time a technology changed, it certainly impacted the human beings in terms of better comforts. It improved their productivity, it improved their efficiency. It also certainly made sure that the per capita GDP went up in every nation wherever were progressive in terms of implementing the industrial revolutions. There is always this big threat of job losses thereafter. Every time an industrial revolution came, the same thing happened. I'm sure that's one of the things at the top of your minds. Are the job losses going to be serious at this point of time, and what do we do next? But I think human beings were resilient. They're much more resilient than what we all think. We are all resilient people. So I've got this very interesting slide with me. I didn't bring it on today. It's not part of this presentation. But I have a photograph, which is actually sourced from the internet, all right. Is in 1907, from a vantage point in New York City, Fifth Avenue, there's a picture which is taken. The street of Fifth Avenue from a vantage point in on top of a tower from New York. And what you see in the street is all of them are horse-drawn buggies. Except in one corner you'll see one small little car, another corner, another small little car. 10 years later, in 1917, from the same vantage point, somebody took the same picture. The whole street was full of cars, except for about 1 or 2 or 3 of those horse-drawn buggies. The end of it, you can't say that we killed the horses or the horsemen died because of starvation because the jobs were not there. Can I be please excused with a little bit of noise from the side, please? Thank you. I hear a little more than I should be hearing, I guess. That's my problem. Sorry about that. So therefore, these industrial revolutions did a lot of good to the world. And job losses, we've been resilient enough to say that we can cope with it. So why is this happening at this point of time at such a pace? Every technology is very, very rapidly. So the 4 pillars that I keep talking about, computers, communication, sensors, and finally algorithms. And all these 4 are changing at a pace we have never seen by mankind so far. People like me started off our careers in computer centers, which were as large as this. I started, the first time that I interacted with computers was way back in 1973. I'm sure several of you were not born at that point of time. And this was is this better now? Thank you. So 1973 I was in IIT Kanpur, and at the first time I was working in computers. And the computer center was as large as this room. And what for the indiscipline. I'm not touching anything. Sorry. So what we're seeing at this point of time Okay. I'm sorry again. So what is bringing about big change is the four pillars I talk about is computers, communication, sensors and algorithms. And it's not just limited to these technologies, the four of them which I call them as pillars. You see enormous amount of change happening in many others, whether it is in materials or it is in genomics or in energy storage or it is in automation further, which is including things like 3D printing. And the pace of change is actually unparalleled any time so far by mankind. In the lighter vein, I keep joking to people, I wish I was born now, because you know the opportunities become so many of them. And we don't think at this point of time that it will slow down. Last night I was at a G20, B20 call. It was a virtual call from Rio de Janeiro. I happen to be one of the co-chairs for the B20 right now. And there was a pool taken for 500 of the Fortune 500 companies. And what impact will technology have this year compared to last year? 61% of the audience said that it will be more than what it was last year. So which means it will become even faster. It will become quicker. It will become cheaper. All these characteristics will come by. So the sum total of the story is that it is the technology space at which technology is changing will not slow down. It is unrelenting at this point of time, which is for good. We all worked, I was telling you the story about computers. I started off in 1973, as I said, IIT Kanpur Computer Center, which was as large as this huge hall. It had an IBM 7044, it had an IBM 1401 and an IBM 1620, 3 computers. If you put some of the computing power of all those 3 systems, it was less than what you or I have in our smartphones. That was then catering to a population of 8,000 students on the campus. Whereas, which means that people were working with a fraction of 1 by 8,000, because literally everybody used to somehow or other have connectivity to the computer center. That's the power that you have now. And what we all talked about CPUs at this point of time. If you talk about CPU in public meetings in several locations, people say you're outdated. The CPU dates are all gone. It's all now to talk about TPUs. That's what the large end is. And if you blink an eyelid, they say, no, Mohan, the TPUs won't stop there. What will happen is the sea change will happen to this world with quantum computing. And with quantum computing, so many complex jobs we still believe cannot be done today are taking time, will be done overnight, will be done instantaneously. So we see that the computing power will continue to grow, and so is the communication capabilities. People will be surprised, we still have challenges in rolling out 5G. It's not because of technology challenges. The challenge is more in terms of the cost of rolling it out. The assets which are deployed under 4G at this point of time have not still given returns to the BTs, the Vodafones, the AT&Ts and the Windstreams of the world. So they're all hesitating to roll it out. But then, academic institutions are already working on the 6G technologies. And 6G will be reality before end of the century. Sorry, end of the decade. By 2030, we'll see 6G technologies too. And what is it finally going to be? Your speeds will be much better, latency will come down, and you'll also see costs coming down. You may ask me, Mr. Reddy, give us one example of latency, and my very favorite example is people talk about teleconsulting. What you're doing in teleconsulting is consulting a doctor in terms of an ailment that you have. But what does 5G technology do for you today is that you can do telesurgery. Remote surgery is possible. Why is it possible? Because the latency is less than 1 millisecond. People were not in a position to do it so far because if you're moving a stylus on one side, in effect what was moving, the stylus on a dummy on the doctor's screen, On the other side, the knife is actually moving thousands of miles away. The patient is being operated. But suppose there's a bleed and then the doctor wants to cauterize it. If the delay is more than a millisecond, the patient could bleed. That's not going to be true any longer when you start using 5G technologies. And then you look at sensors. And sensors, these used to be at one point of time ugly looking devices which are large in size, very expensive. Today they're not any longer there. You can get for a dime a dozen of those sensors. Sensors which are doing much better than what human beings have done. I'll show you a few examples in a minute. And all the sensors God gave us, all the 5 senses, they are in a position to do much better than us. They can see better, these sensors do, visualization. They can hear better than even me. Actually, they can do synthesization thereafter on top of it. And they can feel better. They can, which means that the heat sensors are on. That's the sensitivity that you have. They can smell, they can taste. I'll not get into the idea of giving you examples of what tastes make the difference. And these sensors are now putting oceans of data because they are now sensing everything and anything around the world. And the sum total of the story thereafter is that you have so much of data, you then analyze it with your data scientists or run algorithms to actually get to a level of taking decisions. This technology was called information technology for a long time. Why? Because it was gathering information, and based on that information you are taking some decisions. It's not information any longer, it's a decision-making technology. So I keep saying, please don't call it as IT any longer. This is called a technology industry. To that extent, as some of you may be aware, as we speak at this point of time, there's a major event of NASSCOM going on in Mumbai, which is called NILF. It was called NASSCOM's India Leadership Forum. It was I who got interested back into a new name called National NTLF, the Technology Leadership Forum. So technology will make enormous amount of strides and it will become faster. An example of what I believe is already happening in terms of speed. Yeah, I hope it's so here is what AI is doing at this point in this world. The Goldman Sachs slide. The first AI attempt made by anybody around the world was on speech recognition. And it also to do with recognition. Way back in 1998. It almost took 18 years thereafter for them to get to perfection of what we call 100% human efficiency. Like you and me, who can understand handwriting, the computer can also do of anybody and everybody. It's not that level of 100%. But it took as many as about 18 or 19 years before it happened. But you look to the right of that slide, you'll find that at this point of time, like high school math or logical thinking or comprehension, these applications, for them to get to a level of 100% efficiency of a human being, it is now down to 6 months. So that's the speed at which the technology is moving. How is it possible? Not some data, that's basically driven by language models, LLMs. And you've got tremendous amount of computing power. It's 100 GPUs or 150 GPUs. The data ability to write algorithms and also than the human beings. For example, is that you go for a chest X-ray, the doctor sees the chest X-ray on a light and says, "You're clean." The computer sees you're further than what the doctor is seeing at any point of time. That's so. Therefore, what we're seeing is that this technology is not slow. It is only the result, which is the key one, which is driving today in the world, will continue to flourish all around. It's like all of them will happen, and the businesses will become below me. Uh, anticipating really the type of application that I'm on. So certainly somebody asked me the other day, Mr. Reddy, your company does engineering as a service. So tell me one service offering that you have with generative AI, which is a use case. And let me share that with you. We do a fairly large amount of maintenance work for our customers. You redesign parts, including aircraft parts. That's a big business, so I don't want to get into that business. That's a story by itself. But more importantly, Aramco came and said, can you use Aramco, which is one of the largest, I think the largest oil producing company in the world, for a plant in Saudi? They said, can you use generative AI for maintenance work? And we said yes. And so what we did is we got all their manuals, all their internal data into the large language models. And today, an inspector who goes into the plant to see if there's something wrong, finds, suppose there's a leak of some steam or a gas that's happening. He just stands there and then speaks to a microphone that he has a problem. That's all he does. It's a major, minor, or it can be delayed for a while. If you say it's major, how quickly all this, which is ready for doing this, and the second one is bill of material of the whole plant at this point of time. Aramco has said this is improving the productivity of their maintenance crew by 22% at this point of time. And these are early days. So what we will see is enormous amount of technology usage as we move forward. And as I said earlier, that this technology is not information technology that you just do you do a little more of intelligence thereafter. What we are seeing is that it's become all pervasive. You name an industry, I'll tell you an application that's there. People never thought, computers and technology will be used in industries like agriculture, logistics, healthcare. To us, one of the big mega trends that we are seeing in terms of transformation is healthcare at this point of time, using technology. So, to me, it's a technology universe that we live in. It'll impact us dramatically as we further move on. Please bear with me. I may be there, I may not be there, where I'm in my life. But you'll all be there. You'll all see this transformation. If you don't change, you have a challenge thereafter. The change also brings with it lots of opportunities. Don't think that this is going to be overwhelming on us and how do I do Jesus Christ? No. There's so much amount of opportunity that's coming in. You could be the disruptor who will lead the nation thereafter. When I say you, I think that at this point of time is also impacting the student. The student has changed. He's not the same student I and you were, some of you were, not necessarily all of you. What was that? I keep calling it education 1.0. The knowledge. I was scared to death, even if I blinked my eyelid without. The source of knowledge was only the teacher for me. But then the printing presses came, the 2.0, then distance learning came, 3.0, and we're now in the 4.0, all right. But then the children changed. Look at how technology has brought in social media. I can't believe the way in which it's going down. I have 4 grandchildren, 16, 12, 8 and 4, easy to remember. But even my 8-year-old is already on social media right now, which is not bad, so long as they do. And so they have become, the student for you, you have to understand, is very tech savvy. He's very around. And the second one is that you also see that he's not just dependent on the teacher who's teaching him. If he loses interest in what you're teaching them, he immediately switches off. I teach a class in IIT Hyderabad. I teach a class on leadership. It's a 1-credit class. I do about 15 hours for them. I do it over weekends, so therefore it's about 6 classes of 2.5 hours each. And I know for very well that if I'm not of any interest, quietly the mobile phone comes out and it's below the desk. And I can only see some finger movement any longer for them. They think they can learn from somebody else. So therefore, it is imperative at this point of time as teachers to ensure that they learn from you. They can supplement it, augment it for others. So therefore, the onus rests now on the teacher to make the class more interesting. You're also seeing that given the environment change that has happened, it's not just the technology which will change the world. There's so many more things that you have. Ability to think out of the box just comes not because of just technology alone. You have to make sure that their emotional intelligence improves. Their critical thinking, creativity has to increase. So therefore the class itself has to be a creative class. Very many people are very concerned at this point of time. They're very scared, saying that, actually we asked this question to, I sit on the panel for recruiting vice chancellors and directors of IITs these days. So last week we had 2 of the IIT director interviews, and we're asking, saying that, what's your answer to generative AI? Because the assignments you give, very happily you can go and get it answered with generative AI. So therefore, the point is, you've got to become, the teacher has to become smarter than generative AI. You can't stop them. That is absolutely clear. You find a ways and means by which they will definitely do it. So the onus on the teacher, the learning methodologies are changing quite dramatically. And you have to live with it. I had a job. What was imperative for me? I have to go to market at 8 o'clock. I have to leave my office at 4:30 in the evening. Is it true any longer? Not true. You say, flexi hours thereafter. So you have to manage those people. So we all think that they're the people. So you have to produce students who also can application that is with changing skills. If you go back and relate it to it further, what you will find is that I am not looking for what skills a student has today. As training and placement executives, you should understand this. I did this experiment very well. And we have found that people are not being recruited because what skills you have today. People are being recruited your ability to learn. Because I know for sure, if you have ability to learn, skill does not matter. The skill becomes obsoleted, a new skill comes in, you learn that. So this is the further change that's happening. On top of it, and I'm sure some of you are already doing this, but I thought I'll show it to you, saying that, even recruitment is changing. We're finally coming to a stage saying that, why do you require to write it? I require this degree. No, I don't require the degree at all. What I require is, I need this type of skills with you. Qualification becomes very, very unimportant. It will disappear. It may not be I may not see it, but that's my ambition in life. We should not, degrees are very secondary to life. Knowledge is primary to you. So therefore, if you have the knowledge, you'll fit into the role. So you will see more amount of job portals, sophisticated algorithms which will start matching people. Which we're doing that. Many of the American companies do that at this point of time. And we're also seeing that, look, even the testing procedures, we want to get into more of gamification, which basically will bring out more amount of creativity out of you. So you got to make sure in these engineering colleges, Polarity Engineering College, all other colleges that we have, that we need to transform ourselves. We need to be the transformation agents to bring about this change. We'll also see that the assessments can be done by computers. And as a result of it, and there's a trace for whatever happens. So very strangely, even the largest software company in the recent past fired the whole of their placement group. I'm sure you know the company's name and you know what happened to that story. As many as 12 or 14 of them. Why was it? They said corruption. That is something which we can completely stop by making sure that we deploy technology to recruit people. And this is happening. This is not something I'm saying for future. Let me then move on. So I have 6. Anybody else other than the student? So think about the student. He is in the center stage. Find ways and means by which he becomes knowledgeable. Switch off Thank you. We want to paths. We say and anyway, the first 2 rules require the teacher. Let's be honest about it. Without the teacher also he could have learned. And so I'm saying, can we go back and address to the last few people in the class? And we have to definitely make the change. If we want to become, let me come to the final objective, I'll come to it in a minute. If we want, we're very ambitious of transforming this nation, then it can't be that I'm just going to be cream of the cream, if not first foremost. So the result is that even we have changed the format in which classrooms are. Classrooms are not this way of an auditorium and I give you a lecture. It has to be more interactive learning. People can not necessarily only learn from the teacher, they have to learn from their peer group too. So the format in which We have this format. As they go up the ladder, which ultimately will probably bring it down too. So I think the first and the foremost is you need to get student-centric, engage the student. If you tell him, something which is like verbose for 40 minutes, I've seen lectures, people don't even stop for 40 minutes. And then the student always will think, I can always go and see this in YouTube. I can see it from a better teacher than this guy in the YouTube. So the result is that unless you become interesting, the teacher or the student will not be engaged. We also think that the learning has to become a lot more interactive. So stop, ask questions, run quizzes, give them assignments. So which effectively means that the teacher levels have to go up. We'll talk about it in a minute. The second one, which has to happen, is all about curriculum change. We saw the enormous amount of transformation that's happening. And that as the transformation is happening at this point of time, the curriculum has to change. But people are very reluctant to change. If you still continue to teach automobile engineering saying that there is a 4-piston internal combustion engine which is the power plant for an automobile, and there's nothing else after that, then the student is not learning. And there is resistance for people to change. Of all the places I involved the premium education institutions, I heard this. Department of Chemical Engineering was not willing to change the curriculum because 5 of the top 10 professors were retiring in 3 years from now. They said, if you change the curriculum, I have to learn new things. Why should I do this? And if that becomes the change, that becomes the norm, then the change won't come. So therefore, if you want to definitely want to get to high quality education, the second one is give them flexibility. Allow the student to learn what he or she likes. I'm pushing very hard, and I think I'm almost there. Now I think it's at 60%. I don't know. 60% of the courses they take is in the core branch that they do. The other 40% they're flexible. If you do a course in music, you can. So long as it will tell you that it will fetch you a job, that will become a part of your career progression. So therefore, we should give flexibility to her or not here. So the system now we're putting together is that you do it 3 years, you just get a bachelor's degree. Only when you do 4 years, you do bachelor's in technology. So you have multiple exits at this point of time. And for the same system, we still are not pushing. Even the minister challenged me about a couple of weeks back. The entry cannot be multiple because, at the IIT system at least, the entry is only at one level. That's at the undergraduate level, the first year undergrad. So they can't enter a third year. Somebody from one other engineering college coming and trying a cluster of engineering colleges where the lateral entry can also happen. So think about these progressive methodologies by which the student will become richer in terms of the knowledge that they have. We'll also see that as technology is changing, one other thing will happen is 1 degree does not last for your life. Please make sure that your students understand that. You have to constantly get newer degrees to ensure, newer skills to ensure that you become relevant to the industry or research or academics or whatever it is. Let me move on to my third intervention, and that is about the teacher. Teachers also require professional education. They continuously need to improve themselves. There's nothing wrong at all, because after all, they also see the change. You might say, Mr. Reddy, they're at the forefront of research, they will know a lot of things. True, I don't dispute that, but not necessarily every one of them. Bring them to an even platform and make sure that even that research they do, research or academics, becomes the leading edge. I've still been not successful, but I'm sure some of you will be successful in terms of performance assessment of teachers. And pay based on the performance of the teacher. Don't pay one salary for everybody. And that, not necessarily I'm saying punish the people. I'm only saying reward the people who are doing well. So the end result is we are doing that. Actually, in the system that we have, where in the IIT system that I have at this point of time, I can't punish people. I can't stop an increment. Oh, that is going to be a Herculean task for me. But what do I have in my hand is from what I have is IRG. It's called internal revenue generation that we do, which typically it's about 100 crores for the G1 IITs. It's getting to about 50 crores for the G2 IITs. That's a flexible money outside the budget from Government of India. That money I can spend. I have the flexibility. So I'm saying good performing teachers will get 5 lakhs extra for developing their labs for next year. So you can incentivize them as opposed to, because you don't have the ability to penalize them. And the other thing which is equally important is, given the industry progress we talked about, I think you also, now we have given that flexibility from both AICT as well as IITs, is bring professors of practice. PhD to me is great, outstanding. I don't have one, though people call me as Dr. Reddy. They're all fake degrees that I have. People gave me honorary degrees, so people put down. It doesn't give you the qualification, you know the best what is required in the industry. And the only way we can every summer, for 2 summers, they go for. So the sum total story here is that the teacher has to become stronger if the student has to become stronger. Still, the teacher plays a very important role. I'm not saying the YouTubes and the LinkedIns and the Twitters and the Facebooks will solve any of these problems, or the Byju's or any of the online content. They all will co-pilot you. The teacher is critical for all of us, and we need to make sure the teacher becomes stronger. Let me move on to the next one. The other passion of my life is all about, did I get the right word? Yes. Innovation and entrepreneurship. I think that's a crying need for this nation. There's so many good things that are happening in this country at this point of time. And the second one was job creation. But job creation, look, there is hell this time. Not many people are coming for jobs. And certainly, yes, there will be, we talked about this example of how see a change. Generative AI will bring new breed of people. But entrepreneurship will come only when you start doing more amount of innovation. Innovation is the ability to take risks, persist with ideas, try out new things coming in. The base could be primarily ability to innovate. And once innovation comes and you have a good idea, you think you'll take it forward into the marketplace and you become an entrepreneur. So we need to definitely promote this in our education institutions. And that will probably bring enormous amount of credibility to an organization. So create those maker spaces. Let the students start working with their hands. Let them make sure that they build their own product, ensure that we'll see more amount of innovation and less amount of pressure on job creation from outside the large companies. India has a lot of emphasis in becoming self-sufficient. Good reasons. It just so happens the timing was so that supply chains can be disrupted. Even today, if you look at what's happening in the global scenario, some of the high-end cars are getting delayed for deliveries. Focus concentrated in one country called Taiwan. All wafer is done from there. Thereafter, packaging gets done by other 21 companies around the world. So, India also was in the same situation. So, rightly so, as we a century of post-independent India, I think there is an enormous amount of focus that we should become self-sufficient. So, therefore, my appeal to you is if the intervention that you have to do, the fifth intervention I have, is be worried about placement. Please make sure you go back. It's not easy. And I'm not saying that, it's you are not doing your work. The industry, or at least he has so many of them, he has to just do a global search for names for him. And people, this guy goes and put in 6 months of his effort Instead of what has he done, he's gone to watch a movie, his project report is done. If that's the quality of students we produce, understanding is under strain. But we are under strain at this point of time. On one side, you people are saying, you know, we're not recruiting enough. A company, or two companies at this point of time, which are both listed companies, so they're all public information. We employ 18,000 people. And I was sharing with people a little while earlier, I have 1,800 job openings at this point. And why is that? And not for, all are freshers. Some of them will be freshers. It's because we have shortage of people with the right skills in this country. And this is like water everywhere, but you don't have drinking water for us. So effectively, unless you start interacting with industry, and we are making sure industry interacts with academia too. Amount of interaction has increased considerably. And you see, one time people were saying, no sir, please make sure that this industry comes to us only. Or industry will take 10 colleges, and those 10 colleges are nurtured by them. That is that's a past. We like to completely think this is a universe. We can give you advice, you go and implement it yourself. Thereafter, you will recruit people anywhere. You said this is how the new world, the digital world will continue to be there. So we need to have this apprentice programs, internship programs, interaction. Professors, please take some sabbaticals from the academia, go and work in industry, get the best of experience. I think a combination of all these 6 interventions I talked about is what I believe will make this country different. And you are the academic leaders. You are the people who will determine what the future of this nation is. So you need to make those changes if truly, because everybody is saying Bharat has to become the knowledge hub. It has a potential to do that. I'm very convinced about it. But I think unless you change, it won't happen. Thank you very much for listening to me patiently. Thank you.
Really, we are fortunate enough to have such an event and as a speaker of this program. Thank you, sir, for sparing your valuable time and addressing the gathering. Thank you. Now, I would like to request Dr. B. Srinivas Reddy, sir, Principal of Gprec Engineering College, Dr. B. Veerabhadra Reddy Garu, President and AP Tpos Consortium, Dr. P. Venkatrao Garu, Shri Dinakar Garu, to felicitate Dr. B.V.R. Mohan Reddy Garu. Now I request Shri Vamshi Krishna Somyajula Garu to extend word of thanks.
स्वगृहे पूजिते ज्येष्ठा स्वग्रामे पूजिते प्रभुः स्वदेशे पूजिते राजा विद्वान् सर्वत्र पूज्यते, which translates into an elder is respected in his family, a headman in his village, a king in his kingdom, and an intellectual is respected across the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we just heard some of the insights from one such intellectual now, Dr. B.V.R. Mohan Reddy Garu. On behalf of the AP Tpos Consortium, on behalf of AP Tpos Consortium and G. Pullareddy Engineering College, I extend my deep sense of gratitude to Dr. B.V.R. Mohan Reddy Garu for his presence and insights. I am sure, sir, the seeds of knowledge planted in the minds of the audience today will transform into the ocean of wisdom for the betterment of our student community and to the society as a whole. Sir, with these few words, I extend once again our gratitude for your presence here and your thought-provoking inputs. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Requesting all the delegates to have lunch in the food court downstairs. Thank you. Again, we have 3 more informative sessions at 2 p.m. So kindly requesting you all to be present here exactly at 2.